Hello and welcome, everybody. We are going to be kicking off very shortly with the Mega Man 46 Robos tourney. We have up next AsneL and Palpiblade. This is going to be a really hype race, so I hope everybody's really excited for this. So best of luck to both the runners. Okay, so this is actually what I was going to be questioning. AsneL and Palpi are very much different runners for this game, so I was curious as to how the routes were going to be, because you have sort of different ways that you can play each of these Mega Man games. And for those not familiar with the 46 Robos category, what we have is you don't actually play any of the Wily stages. You just, as soon as it is that you beat the last Robot Master, you switch games. So that's a big difference in the way that you'd see most runners play the Mega Man games. But on top of that, you have different categories depending on which game it is that you're playing, and some of them are doing things like, say, the any percent, where you can be doing zips, or you can do things like glitchless, or those types of things in each of these games. And Palpiblade is actually what would be called a Buster only runner, so he's only going to be using his Buster where possible. So that's why it is that you're seeing them starting at different stages here. So it's going to be really interesting to see the differences in each of the runs. AsneL is doing the more traditional route that you'd be seeing most runners doing. So it's going to be hard to see the sort of overlap as to where they are depending on what's going on right now. But both of them doing really, really well. With AsneL, you're going to see some interesting tech with like some of the screen wraps and things like that, like how he jumped through and grabbed the ladder from the top of the screen but actually climbed from the bottom. And then you're going to see interesting chaos like with Palpi there, where unfortunately Mega Man 1 gravity is very, very unforgiving, and that's why you saw him plummet the way that he did. And those platforms are completely random, so there's no way for him to be able to predict where they are, so he's just got to be able to adapt whatever's thrown at him. It's a very difficult category, and so he's incredibly brave tossing his hat in the way that it is that he's doing this. So definitely have to wish him the best of luck on running the game this way. And we have the first robot cleared over on AsneL's screen. The reason that it is that we pick the route that it is that we do is that going cut first gets you the weapon that Alec is weak to, and because he's going to be doing any percent here, he's going to be doing a glitch that involves getting what's called like the magnet grab, and I believe it's a frame perfect trick at the top of one of these ladders. And once we get there, I'll somewhat explain it. I only know so much in terms of the technical details. It's not a category that I run myself because it's too terrifying for me, but it's got some incredible tech. And the reason that we're excited to see him going for the grab like that is that means we get the magnet beam earlier, which for those who've played this game casually would remember that the magnet beam is used to create platforms, and you're able to get through certain sections a little bit easier, maybe a little bit safer. And then on top of that, the nice thing about it is that when you're talking about this category, you actually wind up getting to do some pretty interesting zips and glitches and stuff like that. So you'll definitely be able to look forward to that. Unfortunately, AsneL missed the corner jump there. It's a very, very scary jump, and you don't have a lot of room for it, so he had to drop down the way that he did. But that was a very, very good recovery, and great on Palpi's behalf there, clearing out Iceman. Ice is a terrifying stage, Buster only. Just that room alone with the total randomness, it's pure chaos. So he handled that really, really well. And AsneL here is coming right up on the magnet grab here. So when you see him kind of doing some interesting bouncing kind of at the top of the ladder here, eventually he's going to zip into the wall above and then grab the magnet, and he's going to be incredibly careful the way that he does that, because if he goes too far to the left, what'll happen is he can actually grab the magnet but then get stuck in the box. The way that you're supposed to do this is you're supposed to use Gutsman's weapon, and then from there you just grab the blocks and throw them. So he did that the safer way, which especially in this setting is very, very advisable unless it's like a game that you run all of the time and are completely comfortable with it. But I don't know that any runner is not scared of soft locking in there. So we're really glad to see him and get through that, because it could be pretty scary otherwise. Because he would just have to reset, which is just unfortunate. Or I guess, yeah, there are options, but we just don't want to see that soft lock. So really good on AsneL there. And Palpi actually making some really good progress on the traversal here. Playing Buster only in this stage, there are a lot of things that are very similar, other than what he's doing with the magnet grabs, magnet beams here. And one of the big things with it is, so with Palpi running Buster only, you are going to see the use of other weapons and things like that. So take, for example, later you're going to see him using the magnet beam. Any sections that absolutely require you to use non-Buster, that's when you'll see him start using that. So that's, even though you're expecting him to do Buster only the whole time, wherever it is that he can't, he's going to switch weapons. Great clear there. So what you saw from AsneL there is a pause glitch that runners use. So what they're able to do is not menu, but use the pause button. They can freeze things, so everything stops like it would in any other game as soon as you hit pause. But the big advantage here is that it resets the enemy's iframes, and the advantage of that is that you can keep a weapon completely in place and then just move it very, very, very slightly, and then keep, like, as soon as it is that you on pause, the weapon can damage the boss again. So it's incredibly handy for doing pretty huge amounts of damage pretty rapidly. And there are certain sections, like the big one you're going to see that is just absolutely incredible for is the dreaded Yellow Devil. So whenever it is that we can do things to speed things up like that, that's an incredible spot to do it. And you're gonna see with the elect beam coming up, AsneL's just going to completely melt Iceman. The other advantage to something like that pause resetting is what you saw AsneL do there, where he reset the momentum and everything like that, so that as soon as it is that he got bonked by that stomper there, then he was able to just reset where he was and then just keep going, rather than taking the full damage knockback and everything like that. So what you saw AsneL trying to do in that hallway was do zips in, like, corridor zips, where you kind of squish between the beam and the ceiling there, and then you can zip through that. In that hallway, you're able to do 3 of them. It's a very, very difficult setup. So when you see him going for it and missing it, it's not due to a lack of skill or anything like that. It's just an immensely difficult trick to do. So good for him for even trying that. Trying to set up another zip there between. And that's one thing where you see the experience of the runners here, where you can see them adapting to, like, okay, I know when I need to bail out of this trick, which is really, really cool to see them pushing the way that it is that they are. So you're gonna see some pretty cool zips inside of Fireman's stage here from AsneL, and you're also going to see an interesting fight from Palpi here. Mega Man 1 Buster Only is kind of interesting in the respect that you have to learn some kind of interesting ways to adapt to boss patterns. Like, take for example with this fight, he only shoots and reacts based on the way that it is that you shoot. So that's why you saw him in the corner doing the kind of hopping the way that it is that he did, and doing one shot at a time, so he wasn't getting bombarded by shots, and it just becomes more of a rhythmic thing. You saw the same thing with Elecman's fight. It's a really, really kind of subtle piece of tech that, unless it is that you're running in a very specific way, most people probably haven't experienced that. Even in the speedrunning sense, because most people go to categories like any percent to run these games, so it's always really cool to see people approaching these in very different ways. Now this is where we get to see a fun use of the pause glitch again. So you hear that quick flickering, that pausing going, and that's the whole reason for that. Is, like I said, you get it so that the iframes reset, but the position of the weapon doesn't reset, so you're able to just completely melt that boss like that. One of the other things that's especially scary for the Buster Only category is that, unlike in any of the other Mega Man games, you can't deboost in spikes. So when you take damage in the other Mega Man games and land on spikes, it's not an instant death, it's only an instant death when you're not invulnerable. Mega Man 1, you get damaged by spikes no matter what. So some of the sections become a lot more terrifying depending on how it is that you're approaching them. And a weird little thing with this Bomb Man fight, it's cool to see them both on the same stage at the same time, despite the huge route difference. Palpiblade gets to choose the stage order, whereas AsneL does it based on utility of each of the weapons and what he has right now. Like for AsneL right now, he's on his last Robot Master, and that's just because of those routing differences. But Bomb Man, for whatever reason, is the only one of the Robot Masters where the little orb that you have to pick up to end the stage is not on the center. Not sure why that is. What you're seeing here is a zip getting set up by AsneL here. Great. That's a terrifying one. Really, really glad to see that he got it there. Makes short work of that screen, skips all those spikes and everything like that. So that was really, really well done. Instead, it's terrifying, so good for AsneL for pushing that like that. The flame weapon winds up being one of the more utilized special weapons in the game, and that's mostly because of how many enemies are weak to it. Oh, sorry, I stand corrected. He's still got Gutsman left. I was thinking of Zipless. Let's see if he goes for the the big zips here. The Gutsman zips are pretty terrifying, so far as I know. So let's hope he gets them. Oh, I was really hoping. So that squishy thing that jumped at Palpy there, the patterns are completely random. Whether it does a high or a low jump, I was really hoping that he was going to wind up getting a high jump, because then he can just walk under it, because those squishers do a ton of damage, as you just saw. So hopefully he can get into the rhythm, because it's not too bad to get into a rhythm and not get hit by Cutman, but right now he's in range, is that one hit will take him out, so it looks like he's got it and he's gotten into the rhythm there. Perfect. Love to see it. And now one of the worst weapons in the game that we use kind of as little as possible. Bomb Man's weapon that's going to be used on Guts here. Oh no! He reset too quickly. Being extra careful right now, just making sure that he gets that last hit without getting taken out there. And there we go. That's Mega Man 1 for AsneL, and he's going to be moving right on to, I think, Rockman 2, if I remember correctly, because I think he's playing on Famicom. Yeah, there we go. So there's going to be a little bit of switching time between each of the games, so that's why if you see a little bit of a delay, that's why that is, just so that it's kind of levels things out depending on how people are playing or what their physical setup is. One of the things that'll make this interesting is to see, I'm not sure if Palpy plays on Rockman or on Mega Man. In certain Mega Man games, the difference between regions is like negligible, or there are differences, but they're minimal. But the difference between Mega Man 2 and Rockman 2 is actually quite significant. Just because in Rockman 2, it's the default way to play the game is what would be considered difficult on Mega Man 2. So most people, depending on what it is that they have available to them, would be not necessarily playing on the Rockman 2. Okay, so he's playing Mega Man 2, so I'm assuming he's playing on normal. If he plays on difficult, then he's just making things really difficult for himself, because all the bosses take a lot more damage, and it makes a difference in any percent, but it makes an even more significant difference in Buster only, just because of how much more health everything has. So I would have been very surprised if he went for Rockman 2 or Mega Man 2 on difficult mode. So again, because he is playing Buster only, he's going to be kind of switching the routes. But in this case, if he, like, this is one of the viable the routes if you are running this game and you are running it with zips. Some people do start with Airman first. That's generally more of like when you're really pushing the game at top level. Most people would start with Flash. But again, it depends on what category it is that you're running. Sorry, I think I meant to say that in zipless, not in any percent, which is what it is that you're seeing AsneL go where he is. There was just recently a Mega Man 2 zipless tournament. I've kind of got that on the mind. Yeah, exactly what Fatso said there in the chat. So for some nice patterns here, when AsneL gets to Heatman, there are a lot of different patterns. Sorry, not patterns, but one of the big things that you need to worry about with heat are based on the timing differences of how long it is that he stays in iframes. Because he takes a little while to warp and become ready to get damaged. I think it's 30, 60, 90, and 120 frames. I'm not sure if it goes higher than that. Oh no, that's an unfortunate death for AsneL. That is a terrifying pit. Nice fight from Palpi. Let's see, I'm hoping that AsneL recovers well from that. That's an unfortunate death. But these are both very skilled and talented runners, so when those things happen, they'll pick right on up and keep going. They're both very experienced. And that's where, even though Palpi's playing a slower category by nature of it, because you're not using any of the weaknesses or anything like that, these are really difficult games, and AsneL's going for some of the really challenging strats with some of the zips and everything like that. And like I said, with Mega Man 1, where he could have soft locked, for example. So it's anybody's game, despite the difference in the times of the categories. So it's really interesting to see the way that it is approaching about this. So it's fun being able to do comms on something like this, where there's such diversity in the routes. Let's see what we get from AsneL here. We are getting fairly nice heat to start here. There we go. That actually was a pretty solid pattern there from Heat there. And so where you're gonna see some of the big differences here in the way that AsneL's going to run, say, Crashman, is he's not going to be doing those rooms the way that Palpi had to do them, which you're going to get to see the advantage of the different items that it is that you get throughout the game, which, given how popular Mega Man 2 is, I'm sure most people watching this are quite familiar with items 1, 2, and 3, but in just casual play, one of them is just a standard platform. The item number 3 is the bouncing thing that you saw AsneL use, where it'll attach on to walls and kind of have some interesting versatility, which we'll see when he does the crash climb. And then the other one's just rather than like you have the horizontal and vertical moving platforms. So one of the things that's interesting about the climb that's being done here from Palpi, and why it's a lot less terrifying than probably some people have been used to if they've played this game casually. But the big thing is that depending on what way it is that you're facing, the bird will just drop the eggs down off screen, and then you don't have to worry about them, which is a huge advantage there. Unfortunate start to air. Air in any percent is an absolutely relentless stage, so AsneL's going to be pushing here. But it looks like going to be kind of swapping some of the strats in terms of safety. What you saw AsneL do a couple of times, and will probably do a little bit more, especially in some of this recovery, is you can pause midair, and then you're able to kind of gain a little bit more height. So you're able to, if you're not going to make a jump, you're able to do that where you're pausing midair, and then it kind of gives you an extra little boost, and then you're able to push a little bit further. I'm hoping that Palpi's screen isn't frozen again. We're having some challenges there. Oh no, his controller died. Alright, well, let's hope that Palpi is able to recover there from that. That's very, very unfortunate. So both runners kind of adapting to their circumstances here. An unfortunate mid-air hit from AsneL there. But let's hope that the recovery is going to be okay there. Going to be trying it for the flash again. We'll see how it is that he chooses to go across the pits. Maybe go for broke and try it again. And if Palpi can hear me, you can use a password to get back to where you were. You don't need to restart the whole run. Oh no. That's okay. Both runners will recover. I'm sure it'll go well, and we'll be able to see them push it and continue. It looks like AsneL's going to be switching to taking a little bit slower and kind of doing, if you were to play Rockman 2, a little bit more safely. The strats that he was going for are immensely difficult, so the fact that it is that anything went wrong there is, again, not a reflection of the skill level or anything like that. It's just absolutely a brutal way to play the game. Yeah, unfortunately, strange situations for both runners. Hopefully we can get this all sorted and both runners can recover from this. You always hope for the best in races, but it seems like when it's go time, that's when everything seems to go wrong. Anybody who's running any sort of marathons or races and done comms or anything like that have definitely done the whole I've never seen that before. I think all of us have said that once if we've ever been in either of the runner or the commentator's role. Palpi's controller died, Cab. And very unfortunate for Palpi that it happened right in the corridor, right before he was about to take out Crash. So to recover from it using the password, he doesn't get the advantage of having already beaten Flash. But unfortunately, because AsneL had a rough airman stage, which again, it's an immensely brutal stage, especially in this category. He just had the stage that it is that he did, but he's recovered and now he's going to be pushing forward. So now we're going to be seeing him again kind of doing this unfortunately far longer climb, because for those who don't know, Palpi is running Buster only, so he's not going to be using any of those extra items. We are going to see, depending, I haven't seen AsneL run this category before. I've seen AsneL run the other Mega Man games, so I'm not sure what zips he is and isn't going to be going for. Crash has some of the most terrifying zips at least from a viewer perspective, because there's so much that it is that you're doing. So you're looking at this, and now he's doing stuff that looks like it's completely out of bounds and has no idea where he is, kind of thing, but he's actually doing things on other screens. Mega Man 2, with the way that the zipping works, from my understanding, is visually you're seeing something on one screen, but what you're actually doing is traversing other screens that the game is still loading physically, but not visually. So that's why you're seeing some of that funky tech there. So the runners have to be familiar with the way that it is that the zips work, and become familiar with screens that they're not seeing. So it's terrifying. I think, in my opinion anyway, the fight that Palpi's on with Crash right now is actually one of the more interesting Buster-only fights in this game. The big reason being is that it's kind of like an interesting dance, almost. Like, you're kind of doing these like almost like figure eights throughout the fight. So it's a really cool fight to do and watch Buster-only. So that was handled really well. It's cool in the normal, like when you're playing Mega Man 2 normal mode, because you're actually able to kill Crash in one well-placed air shot. So it's kind of fun to see that fight where he just gets absolutely melted. That was a pretty solid fight there from AsneL, and a nice recovery from what happened in air there. So we'll see how both the runners handle this. Palpi is getting that E-Tank. I'm not sure if that's just a safety because of the marathon or if it's routed into it. But given that he's taking deliberate deboosts, maybe it's something that's actually routed in for Buster only. But also it just might be safety, because there's some scary stuff, especially when you're playing in that category. Because again, like I was saying before, one of the terrifying things with Buster only is that because you aren't using any weaknesses or anything like that, like people familiar with Mega Man 2 and Metal Man being able to get taken out by Metal Man's weapon in one hit, well, you don't really see that in Buster only, so things are a little bit different in that respect. So let's hope that AsneL gets this zip here. Perfect. That's what you love to see. And again, since AsneL zipped, we're doing the whole screens, but physically you're on one screen, and visually you're on one screen for a little while. Sometimes depending on what's going on. I can't remember exactly what it is that resets it, but there are points where you kind of snap back to reality here. And now he's going to be going back and doing another zip to try and get straight on into Crash's room here. Doing a little bit of wiggles. I think he might have overzipped. Yeah. So, again, that's where it is that AsneL has picked a terrifying category, and what I was mentioning before is that it's kind of anybody's game, because when you're running an 8%, especially with a game like this, where zips are plentiful, soft locks are definitely a thing. So, because of that, you're seeing right now in real time AsneL looking up a password to match. One of the things that they allowed in the rules is for the soft locks, or in the case of what happened with Palpiblade, where he had to reset his run. Passwords are used just to be able to get back to where you were with no other advantages. These are going to be like those kinds of things are going to be showing up a little bit less as soon as it is that we get out of Mega Man 2, because there are certain games like, say, Mega Man 4, for example, where I think that there's only one zip that they actually use in the run. Any other zip, I believe, can only be done in tasks, just because if you aren't in the very short iframes you're provided, you die instantly in Mega Man 4. Okay, AsneL getting back into the swing of things here. Unfortunate death from Palpi there. And let's hope for a good recovery from AsneL here. Okay, so since AsneL missed the zip, he's going to be switching to this stage, or switching strats here. And rather than zipping through, he's going to be going through this stage kind of normally, in a sense. Not sure why he picked the password he did, maybe just misread it or something like that, but he had already finished Crash Stage, and I'm assuming since he's in the menu as long as he is right now, he's realized that and might reset again to get back to quick. We'll see. Nice recovery from Palpi there. Not sure where he's going to be moving to next. Okay, yeah, AsneL is doing another password now. There we go. Okay. As much as it is that I really like Crashman stage, and it's probably one of my favorite stages to see run in the zip route, in a race setting, we probably don't need to be doing stages twice, so I'm glad that AsneL realized that and had the time to swap. So again, this is the rough pair of categories there, so they're doing well. And it was really cool to see Palpi going for zips in Heatman stage. I didn't know that Buster only runners could do zips, and not that they like scale wise, I meant category wise. Like, I didn't know that that zip was allowed, so it's really cool to see. You saw Palpi taking damage off of the shrimp as opposed to the fish. It would look a little bit faster to deboost off of the fish instead of taking the damage from the shrimp and slowing down a little bit, but the reason that he did not is that those fish hit like freight trains full of bricks, and just do a ton of damage, so it's better to just take the little bit of safety there. Oh no, AsneL! But I believe AsneL will recover and do really well here. It'll be interesting to see how this potentially levels up. But again, these are very terrifying categories, so these types of things are definitely a risk. So right now we have Palpi taking the lead. Now I didn't expect them to be joining the same stage just because of the way that the routes are run, but man, they're dangerous categories, so let's see what happens. GG's to Palpi, because like I said before, Buster only is a little bit slower a category just by nature of it works. So the fact that he's caught up despite that is quite impressive. So good on him for that. But it is still very much anyone's game. So that was actually a smart choice there from AsneL, aside from wanting to avoid the potential soft lock, but you can use air there rather than taking the D-boost off of the enemies, which can do some substantial damage. But on top of that, if you play on normal modes on the North American version, you're able to pretty easily mash them down with Buster, but they take too much damage in this version. Good fight from AsneL there. Fighting, it's interesting to see the way that it's played with that, especially because if they were playing in the full category for this game, you wouldn't actually be seeing Crash used against Quickman, just because later it's just used fully on the Boo Beams fight. Okay, going for this is a tough zip to set up just because you're on the conveyors here. But AsneL's committed to it, because skipping this hallway makes a pretty significant difference there. So let's see if he can recover from that. So look, he was close there. Well, the backup is, or depending on what category it is that you run, is actually using Flash to go through here just to be able to freeze those, because those do a ton of damage. And waiting for them takes forever, so that was really smart on his part. Middleman stage is kind of a more straightforward one, depending on how it is that you go about this. So I'll be curious to see how he finishes off. Likely it's going to wind up being using item 2 up ahead and kind of skipping over the pits here, but see what happens. But the position of that can be kind of rough. And he's got to jump off screen and kind of catch up with it. Yeah, that's unfortunately that can happen. If you can go too high and too low on that. If you go too low, then you just wind up, you're going to get bonked. And then if you go too high, then it can just stop the platform. Okay, good recovery from AsneL here. Taking it nice and safe here. Okay, good. Oh no! Okay, nice Woodman stage from Palpy here. Okay, so Woodman's an interesting fight, Buster only, just because you can kind of get right into that hitbox the way that you do, and but he's also, that's probably why it is that he got that E-tank earlier, because he's also going to balance it out with his health. Okay, so one of the things that's going to be happening here, which I believe also works in the Japanese version. Okay, it does. It's been a while since I've watched it. So you can hold in the shoot button once you get into Metal Man's room, and it's so long as it is that you don't extend past the halfway point, you are able to make Metal Man just not shoot at you and just sort of stand there. And so long as it is that you're holding the quick blade, and because it has a rapid fire built into it, what'll happen is he'll just stand there and take whatever it is that you throw at him. And particularly if you're playing on the North American version on normal mode, we'll just melt him before anything can really even happen. So I'm not sure how AsneL's going to handle Woodman stage. It has one of the more difficult zips in the game, and it's pretty terrifying, but it's incredible to see. So I'm not sure exactly how it is that he's going to handle that when the time comes. So the whole for anybody worried about what AsneL was doing, that was actually deliberate here, because he needs to take that death because he didn't have enough lives to be able to do the zip. To do the zip, you have to die. And then when you die, if you don't have any lives, then it's game over, versus just spawning elsewhere. So I'm glad that AsneL was paying attention to that. And then now we are on to Mega Man 3 over on Palpi's screen. So AsneL has some work ahead of him. We'll see how he handles that. Mega Man 3, at least in my opinion anyway, is probably the most brutal of the Buster only runs. And a lot of that has to do with things like the Robot Master fights, like, for example, Shadow. Shadow is an absolutely relentless fight when you're doing Buster only. So it's going to be interesting to see the way that he pushes that. But we're starting to get into the Buster only games that Palpi is stronger at. So we'll see what happens once he starts getting into those categories, because he's going to be able to push more. So that was, I have no idea the technical explanations for what you saw on AsneL's screen. I'm not a Mega Man 2 runner by any stretch. I only learned it for 1 to 11. But he did the zip, and now he's at Woodman. So good on him. It's an absolutely brutal thing and incredible to watch. So that was awesome to see. I think AsneL will probably be going top first once he gets to Mega Man 3 as well. Most Mega Man 3 runners seem to run that first. But the big thing with even though I don't know the full details of exactly how it is that they set up the zip and where the death is and everything like that in Woodman, it's similar to the other zips like I was talking about before. Is basically you have the game visually on one screen, but the actual physical locale, it's loaded other parts of the stage, so you need to be able to traverse screens you're not even looking at. So that's why those zips are so terrifying. And again, some of them you can soft lock, like we saw what unfortunately happened when he was in Quickman. So I'm glad to see him successfully do that wood zip. Trying to set up a terrifying zip there. I'm not sure if it's going to do the other one with the spikes right before the end there. We'll see what happens. I imagine he's just going to be opting to keep Metal Blade. Oh, maybe not. It looks like he's going to be going for it. AsneL is not messing around. It's good on him. He's had some things show up and has made this, even more terrifying in this type of setting. But he's going for it. I always love when runners just despite the challenges, and both of these runners have experienced some challenges, unfortunately, during these runs, and they just keep on pushing. You love to see it. Again, and that's where it is that it's anybody's game here. So when you see in this type of setting where runners are going for tricks like that, like the zip that AsneL was trying to set up there, is terrifying. Still going for it, so that's just awesome. You want to see that. And one of the big things is that, like, if this is an aside to what we're seeing here, is just if you're planning on submitting to any sort of marathons or races or anything, like say on the Speedgaming channels or any of this stuff, or join the Mega Man community, it's all about the fun. So just keep pushing, keep doing those attempts, and if things go wrong, like unfortunately that happened to Palpiblade there, just keep on going. It's all for fun. Doesn't really matter who wins. Usually the first person to congratulate the winner is the person who lost. Like, it's an incredibly supportive community here, and you see that in a lot of other communities here, whereas just the runners always want to see each other do incredibly well. Okay, so AsneL does Magnet first. There are a few different like, I wouldn't say necessarily main routes, because I think that most people run top first in Mega Man 3, but I guess I should say viable routes. Magnet first, Gemini, and top first. And so we're seeing AsneL doing Magnet first. There are advantages to each of them. One of the things, like getting Magnet early in Mega Man 3 is a really good thing. It reduces mashing in stages at, like, say, top stage, for example. And it also is just an incredibly powerful weapon, so getting that out of the way is really, really nice. And you're going to probably see Palpy go for extra E-tanks. Some of the fights that Palpy has to deal with, Buster only, are just absolutely awful. Like I said, Shadow is definitely one of them. Wasn't sure how he's going to handle this fight. When you're doing Gemini optimally, Buster only, it's a weird, like, back and forth dance thing, and it's unreal to watch, but he's doing this incredibly well too, so it's awesome to see. Just because of how brutal Mega Man 3 can be in certain sections, I anticipate this will kind of level the playing field a little bit, but again, you never know. Both brutal categories. It's a brutal game. But it's a really, really fun one. And honestly, if someone dies, not too big a deal, because we get to listen to that incredible soundtrack. So Magnet is a part of the challenge with choosing Magnet first, is that you have to deal with sort of this randomness. He's either going to be doing, after he jumps to one side, he's going to be doing it where he's going to be shooting the magnets, which is what you want him to do, or he's going to use that magnet to draw you in. And when he draws you in, he's either invulnerable, and like, if he's invulnerable unless you take a deboost, so you have to balance out the how much time do I want to save versus how much health it is that I have. So it's something where it's a judgment call from runners on what it is that they want to do. And we get to see everybody's favorite friend here, Proto Man. We're also going to see Proto Man on AsneL's screen eventually later in this stage as well. I'm not sure if he fights him with Buster or Magnet, but I think from conserving ammo and everything like that, he'll likely choose to do the Buster fight, but I don't know. There's a way that you can do the Proto fight with, I'm not sure if it's the full Magnet ammo amount, because you need to save ammo for Hardman as well. But I know it's at least you have a fight where you can use Magnet through Proto as well as the Hardman fight. After you equip it, you keep it on for the remainder of the limited remainder of the stage. And yeah, doing it Buster only in an any percent tourney is definitely commendable. I wasn't sure what I was going to be doing comms on when I saw that Palpy was racing AsneL, because I know that Palpy has done any % runs, but I also didn't want to ask in advance because I just wanted to go in as a surprise to see what both runners were going to be doing here. So this is cool to see. I actually think that was a deliberate death from Palpy, because as I highlighted earlier, Shadow is one of the most brutal fights in the game, Buster only, at least in this category. There are way worse ones in the Doc Robot stages later. But for the 8 Robos, this is definitely one of the tougher ones. It also might be why it is that he got the E-Tank. Pretty impressive fight here. And good stuff from AsneL as well. He has the health to be able to do the D-boost version of the fight, so yeah, perfect. He's going to be doing that. Oh no! He was so close to doing the optimal Hardman fight. But unfortunately, Hardman is massive, and then he took that double D-boost. Where you especially don't want to be seeing D-boosts off of the bosses is once they get to Mega Man 4, because they hit like freight trains in that game. Really good recovery from AsneL. Unfortunate death, but clutching it out really, really well here. I'm not sure what we're gonna see up ahead here. So these snakes you can do a zip through. Okay, so that answers my question. I'm not sure in terms of like whether it's a preference thing or a knowledge thing or anything like that, but you can, and like technically speaking, I'm not sure category wise, zip under those snakes, and optimally you can slide under them. That's more of generally top level runners do it. You can also abuse Rush Jet, which is immensely powerful in this game because it doesn't lose ammo unless you're actually physically riding it. So when you see runners using Rush Jet for a while and need to conserve ammo, which you would see a lot of if they were in the dock stages, but they're not going to be in the category. But as long as you're not on Rush Jet, it doesn't use ammo, and you can fly Rush in any direction, anywhere. There's nothing fixed about it, so you can do some pretty relentless abuse with Rush Jet in this game. Okay, so this is what I was talking about before, where a part of the reason why runners will opt to do magnet first is it actually makes, say, that screen with the cats easier. Aside from having to do less shots because the magnet does more damage than the buster, they also have to mash less, and they also don't have to jump mash, because jump mashing for those who are like have tried that sort of thing is generally harder depending on how it is that you grip your controller and that sort of thing, and the technique that it is that you have. Good match is like an art form in and of itself, and usually requires a lot of practice to be able to get right, especially contextually depending on the game. So having it where it's like you're kind of able to ease that up a little bit using magnet on the cats is a really, really good idea. But it's all up to preference and what people want to push. Unfortunate death from AsneL there, but luckily this is a stage where it's not too far off of where the checkpoint is. I'm hoping that's just Palpy's stream freezing just for a moment, and it comes back. So for now, we'll switch to AsneL's game audio. But at least we have something going, and I really, really hope that Palpy's stream comes back. And it's also nice going to the stage, aside from reducing the cat mashing. It also gives AsneL the ability to be able to use Hardman's weapon on top, which melts him a lot quicker. And I personally enjoy that fight a lot more in terms of doing it with the hard knuckle. So it's nice to be able to see that. And this is a game with a lot of routing differences, generally based on preference, but there are speed differences as well. Okay, good. We have Palpi back. Now he's on Sparkman stage, which I love to see. Because Sparkman, for myself anyway, of the 8 Robos, is probably the most fun stage to do and my favorite to listen to. Gemini being up there as well. It'd be a fun thing for people. I was like chatting with people about the preferences in terms of music in the games and everything like that, because you can't really go wrong with any of the classic games or any of the soundtracks. Always a great time. So I'm not sure how AsneL does it, but towards the end of the stage, because of he has the top man weapon, he might do some gap jumps. I'm not sure. Oh wait, no, because he's doing magnet. Of course not. He's not going to be doing that. There are different ways to be able to do this room, and one of them involves using top man's weapon to kind of do like weird deboosts, and like not deboosts, sorry, top hits underneath those parachuting enemies where you kind of have to project yourself backwards, and it's absolutely terrifying, and there's a randomness element to it, so you gotta adapt to each individual situation. Oh no! Okay, so for those who have played this game, you've probably experienced the frustration that AsneL just experienced. I'm not sure how he's gonna handle this right now, but basically what happens is that if you use top while you are inside of his hitbox, it'll drain the ammo like immediately, and that's what happened there. So it doesn't look like he's familiar with the Buster only strats, so it looks like he's going to probably be doing the stage again, unless he just adapts at a clutch level. So unfortunately, he's going to have to be redoing the stage. But again, still anybody's game. Terrifying category, terrifying games, really difficult. So let's hope for the best for both runners. Palpi is doing quite incredible. Again, the category handicap. You would think immediately would put this completely in AsneL's favor, but again, it's dangerous when you're pushing for some of these strats. So Palpi playing the way that he is kind of makes him equip, in a sense, in difficult situations. Yeah, so that's actually a good question, Green Saber. In general, no, but the advantage of knowing Buster only strats, it means that in certain situations, like say with the shadow fight, if you run out of top ammo, that does mean that you might have an advantage over an 90% runner who's less familiar with the fight, to not sort of panic as a Buster only backup, depending on what the boss is. What AsneL could have done, but it's also really hard to do, is you can actually do damage transferring. A lot of like it's built into the run for runners to be able to do it in certain spots where like say in the Wily stages when you fight the Mega Man clones, you will use Rush to coil up to the top of the screen. Since the clone that can get hit is on the very top, you shoot a few buster shots and then switch to top, and then what happens is those buster shots have the top damage essentially, so the weakness of the Mega Man clone, and so it just melts them. And you can actually do that with no top ammo. So AsneL could have done that damage transfer, but in that particular arena with a boss as random as he is, it's really difficult to be able to set up. But it's there's so many different backups for these games, and it's just terrifying. But you know, each runner handles it differently based on the knowledge and experience, and depending on what it is that they're doing in that situation. Both runners doing incredibly well. So that's one of the advantages right there you saw from AsneL doing Magnet first, because having Magnet for that screen makes it a lot easier. When you're going through it with Buster, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong there. Unfortunately, AsneL has to now adapt to this screen. Generally what would happen is the upper route would be what he would have shot down, and from there would have slid through, but instead he's going to be doing this a little bit differently, just so that he can kind of get through the stage. And Palpi making it through Hardman stage quite well here. Making some steady progress. I'm not sure how AsneL will handle the last screen. There are a couple different ways that you can go. I guess kind of maybe 4 different ways. Just go through Shadowblade with Shadowblade, walk through it. Shadowblade do the one tile slides, which are terrifying. Just stick with Buster like Palpi did, or you can Rush Marine under it all. Rush Marine doesn't lose too much time, and it's way safer, so it's definitely a good strat to do in certain situations. Not sure what AsneL's going to choose there. We're going up top, we're doing the Shadowblade. Maybe. Okay, so he's going to be going back up. Okay. Yeah, thankfully he fell where he did, and now he has a backup eating, so definitely not a loss there. Having the backup is definitely good, especially since now he's kind of in recovery mode in certain respects, so he's going to be not risking certain things as much as he might otherwise. That troll dragonfly gets the best of us, unfortunately. It's a brutal spot there. Okay, so we're seeing, I'm pretty sure the final appearance of Proto on Palpi's screen. So yeah, this is Gemini's stage. When you're going on those upper blocks, there is absolutely relentless. Just because those dragonflies, the way that it is that they can deboost you and everything like that, it's very easy to be able to fall into the pits. And that's one thing when you're somebody who's getting into running some of these games, trying to when you're in a race situation, you might be kind of looking, it's like, why are they doing that? And you know, if that didn't work out this time, why are they trying to do it again? And it's because like when you're in this kind of mindset, depending on how it is, how comfortable you are with certain things, and depending on what sort of backup strats you've explored and that type of thing, adapting to each situation, sometimes runners will kind of go for the same thing because it's like, this is what I know, this is what I'm comfortable with. So they might just continue to push in that direction. So it really depends on the runner's skill level and preference and what it is that they're equipped to deal with. So Shadow Bait is one of the weaknesses from this fight. Oh, he's choosing to risk it and absolutely terrify me. I was expecting him to use that E-Tank, especially because I don't think he has any more lives left. Gemini is actually another one of the weaknesses of Gemini, which you do see in the refights. So now you're seeing Palpi fight Magnet the way that AsneL did, just because AsneL chose to do Magnet first. Okay. Here we go. And now Palpi is moving on to Mega Man 4. Making some really steady progress here. Palpi is really familiar with Mega Man 4. I think a lot more comfortable with 4 and 6. So now we're starting to get into the wheelhouse where he's kind of more at home. So I'm really interested to see how he handles this. I can't remember which ones AsneL is more comfortable with. I know for sure Mega Man 6. AsneL has really pushed Mega Man 6 at an incredible level. So that's a game where he can make up some time there, possibly. Unfortunate death there from AsneL. You're supposed to slide under there, but thankfully it's close to the checkpoint, so he can... Not too much of a loss there. And one of the advantages is now he's potentially going into the needle fight with more health. Which, given how terrifying that fight can be and how easy it is to lose time there, not a bad thing. So we're going to see some substantial differences in Mega Man 4 between Palpi and AsneL here. And a part of the reasoning is, say, Palpi right now, we're seeing these mini bosses. It's actually... I'm not used to seeing them. When I first started speedrunning Mega Man, I actually came into the community when the Mega Man 4 tourney was going on and everybody was running any percent, so I'm used to just seeing them use the flash stopper there and not spawning the snails at all. So it's kind of interesting to see the Buster only experience where you're actually seeing more of the enemies and actually taking them out completely. And the most terrifying robot master in the whole franchise, Toadman. Doing his little wiggle. So the big thing is that so long as it is that you keep the damage on Toadman, then you don't really see any attacks from Toadman. Once you know that and you're comfortable with it, then you're sitting pretty there. So now we're going to get to see some fun rush abuse from AsneL in Snake Man stage. You're going to see it rather than with Palpi where he mashed down those snakes, just going to, fly on over them. Final screen, he's just going to fly on over them. Even though AsneL is, at this point, 3 stages behind. 2 in Mega Man 3 and then 1 of them in Mega Man 4. Again, like I said, this is anybody's game, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I really hope that they do level out, because I'm not sure about people viewing right now, but I know for myself, whenever it is that you can get those overlapping races where it's, anybody could pull ahead at any time, those are always the most enjoyable to watch. But regardless, both runners, is just a pleasure to watch and a pleasure to be here. They're crushing it out here. And now seeing the calls for the Rush Marine in chat there. I know personally myself when I run Mega Man 3, I do love using Rush Marine there. Gotta let the good doggo there get the love and attention he deserves. And I'm assuming the commands Mellow put in chat there for following the runners. You should definitely follow both of the runners, Palpiblade and AsneL. They have very different styles of streaming, the way that they approach games, and both incredible at what they do. So definitely check them out. I think that's one of the things that's been fun about being able to see this race is because they play very, very differently from one another, and it's a complete and totally different experience. So the overlap is, aside from switching games, it's kind of hard to tell where one's at depending on what's going on. There's one thing that's going to be a big challenge in Mega Man 4 in general, is a lot of things hit really hard, and you intentionally take a lot of deboosts through things and are on low health in a lot of situations. So Buster only, where you're spending a lot more time on each of the bosses, it makes that Buster only experience that much more terrifying. Like, it's even terrifying in any percent, so good on Palpy for being able to manage that. Mega Man 4 is definitely a game that it's easy to dismiss how challenging it can be. Because casually there's certain things that I feel like are a little bit easier, but when you're trying to play it at the speed run kind of level, it can get really, really rough really quickly. And you'll see, likely with AsneL, the balloon straps and everything like that, where they do some really funky tech. My heart kind of skipped a beat there on Palpy's screen. I didn't know that you could jump over that. I thought he was going to take the bonk and go into that pit, so good for him for making that jump. This is a terrifying room, this whole leg room, because you're going to have to put faith in your abilities there, because some of the spots you're kind of jumping before platforms are formed, and you have to know where they're going to be, versus where it is that they actually are, and know that when you jump in certain spots that you're guaranteed not to be getting bonked into the spikes. So that was impressive there. Boy, I thought he was kind of pushing that pretty heavily there. That crusher room is brutal. So the fact that he was going as hard as he was, I was kind of clenched there. We'll see if he goes for it again. Again, it's a terrifying thing to go for. I don't know. He's still pushing. My goodness, gonna give me a heart attack here. I'm too old for that. What are you doing to me, Palpy? So with Palpy, like I said before, Buster only, you kind of do the stage in the order that it is that you like. The only exceptions really are if you've routed, say, an E-tank into your run, you might opt to go to that stage first, for example, or get the more difficult one out of the way, whatever it might be. Whereas AsneL, since he's playing any percent, he has two different options depending on what it is that he wants to go for. I think technically on paper, not by much, I think like 5 seconds or something like that. A Mega Man 4 runner can definitely feel free to correct me, since I'm more familiar with the latter half of the classic franchise, but you can go Pharaoh first or Bright first. There are different advantages to each one, and then after that, both of those routes converge into the same thing. But the main difference being that you can use Pharaoh's weapon on Brightman, which there are a lot of conveniences to the fight, but you also, even though you can do some pretty significant damage with Pharaoh's weapon, it also comes with some risks. And there's a little bit more control in the fight when you play it with Buster, when you're fighting Bright first instead. The reason that it is that you need to pay attention to the health is that the sort of instinctual thing to do when you're fighting is just do as much damage as possible each hit. But the thing is that Bright has checks built in place where he, at fixed increments of health, he'll freeze you during the fight, and there's nothing you can do to stop it if you've set the health values at that. But that's why you saw a neutral shot being done, and you would do the same thing if you had Pharaoh's weapon, where you do a neutral shot to be able to get the damage down one tick, and then after that, then you just do your fully charged shots with either of those weapons, and then it ensures that you're skipping those health checks on Bright. Then you don't have to worry about the freezing. This is a terrifying thingy screen now on Palpi's screen. Now you have all these rocks falling and everything like that, and there's all sorts of lag and enemies all over that you have to deal with. When AsneL gets to this stage, he'll have the Bright Stopper, so what he's going to be doing is just freezing it and continuing to slide. And what you'll see is that if you use the Flash Stopper, it's set for a fixed amount of time, except when you're sliding, the time does not advance for that to put the check in place to say, okay, yeah, you need to stop freezing the screen right now. So if you chain your slides really well, you can keep everything frozen for quite an extended period of time. And you can see the difference when you're watching top runs in terms of them being able to plan around that really effectively. And if they only have to use it once on certain screens, it just shows their ability for proper slide chaining and everything like that if they don't have to use it more than they need to. But thankfully, since they don't have to, generally speaking, AsneL won't have to manage the ammo too much. Like, he doesn't have to worry about running out based on the way that the 46 rope was played. So thankfully, he doesn't have to worry about that too much. I mean, slide chaining is always the best thing to do, but luckily he doesn't have to generally worry about the ammo. Depending on how it is that he plays Skullman's stage. I think that's the only, or Toadman stage I meant to say. Skullman has a couple of different ways to go about it. I'm not sure if he's going to do Balloon or the Flash Stopper strats. And speaking of Skull, that's where we're seeing Palpi right now. Going to be an interesting balance here, because there are going to be certain instances where Palpi's going to be taking deboosts, and other times he's going to be trying to avoid certain enemies, and there's going to be kind of a balancing act with that. Some of it based on judgment calls, and then there are going to be other things like depending on how it is that he's charged his weapon and stuff like that. One of the weird sort of, I guess, quirks, so to speak, I'm not sure why it is the way that it is, but in order for you to charge your Buster in this game, you actually have to fire a neutral shot first, and then you're able to charge the weapon. So depending on how it is that he's handled that, he's going to have to adapt. So the skeletons there, you'll see certain instances where he'll shoot them down and then they'll crumble, and you can't take damage from their bodies at that point in time. So he'll just go through them, and then other times he'll have had a full charge shot available and then just take them out in one shot. So they're going to be balanced depending on the circumstance as to when he does that. Particularly if you saw him doing full runs of the game. It was an unfortunate death from Palpi there, and I think it was because he just missed that charge shot that you saw right there that took out the skeleton. But really, really good recovery there. And on AsneL's screen with Ringman Stage, you're getting to see the power and versatility of Pharaoh's weapon, and on top of that, the joys of being able to skip the plentiful mini bosses in this stage. So some things about Pharaoh's weapon that you're gonna see are you can charge it, like say when you're going through screen transitions, for example. You're able to hold in the shoot button and then get that full charge shot and not waste any ammo at that point in time. So what'll happen is, yeah, so he was meant to take the deboost off of the ring because it does less damage than taking the deboost off the boss. But doing that right at the start of the fight, if you're going to be doing that anywhere, is the best way to go, because then he hasn't wasted too much ammo. And is able to kind of get right back at it here. But the full charge shot on the head, you can actually walk into the boss and then also throw one, and that counts as one ammo count. There's actually a way to use the weapon without using any ammo, but they don't need to worry about that there. I almost got into panic with Palpi for missing the balloon, but I realized Palpi doesn't use the balloon because he's running Buster only. AsneL, you saw jump over that pit and go get balloon because he will use that for traversing certain stages where Palpi's running Buster only, so we don't have to worry about that. Oh, got sniped in the screen transition there. Funny for myself, one of the reasons why I wouldn't even consider running Buster only in Mega Man 4 is not just because it's a scary run, but because the Buster charging sound I find is a little bit grating. So I try and use it as little as possible. So I'm always impressed when runners commit to it, because it's a brutal sound to have to listen to for extended periods of time. But that's just a personal thing, I suppose, as an aside. So there are a couple different ways to go through that room that AsneL just did. And he chose the flash stopper way, but you can actually do it with Pharaoh as well. Pharaoh, it's like both of them are terrifying. You have some advantages and safeties using flash, so I'm sure that's why it is that he did that, or it just might be what he's more comfortable with. So ring is Dustman's weakness, so AsneL's going to have to be careful about the way that it is that he uses the ring weapon through this. That's a scary amount of ammo, so I think that he might be doing some deboost to get through some of the enemies instead, rather than shooting them. Because the dust fight can just be awful depending on what pattern it is that he gives you. So he's going to want to make sure that it is that he has the ammo that he needs. And now we're seeing Brightman again on Palpi's screen. This stage will be, theoretically, I'm not sure if there are any the differences in the way that each runner handles this, but I think that Buster only runners will run Bright Stage the same way as any percent runners would if they started with this stage. And then for AsneL, we're going to be seeing him move on to Skullman. The nice thing about having the weapons here is, say, in the case of something like Skullman can be invulnerable for some pretty extensive periods of time, and it's random as to how it is that happens. So being able to have that where you don't have to worry about that randomness is definitely really nice. I believe AsneL goes for the a solitary zip. Okay, you did. Cool. Saved a couple of seconds, and swaggy. You know, swag is always the way to go. So that's an interesting piece of tech there. So you saw AsneL platforming off of a balloon that didn't exist. Even though it popped, that popping animation does have a hitbox and you're able to platform on it. You don't have many frames to be able to do that, but you can do that. It's really, really cool. I love seeing runners go for it, so good for him for doing that. Sometimes runners will opt to do, excuse me, sorry, the flash stopper through the stage, and we're actually going to see that swap right now. Some runners do it through the whole stage, and then he's chosen to do the split here. Again, if he plans it appropriately, then he's able to just keep hammering down on the sliding and not have to worry about too much throughout the screen. So that was played really well. One of the things that he has to consider as he's using that weapon is when it's frozen, you have to wait for it to finish out the freezing cycle. So you can't just freeze time for, you know, X amount of seconds and then menu and switch to something else. You have to wait for it to go out. So it's something to consider depending on what sort of strats it is that you are doing. It wasn't too bad a pattern from Skullman for AsneL there. Like I said, the invulnerability periods for Skull when he puts up his shield are random in terms of what their length are. I'm pretty sure that those were short ones unless I have misremembered and wasn't paying close enough attention. Okay, so it's nice to see them both on Diveman here. There's going to be certain similarities, but there's also going to be some substantial differences that make each state, like each way that the player's playing it, really interesting in their own way. One of them is the whales. The whales are a lot easier when you're using Flash Stopper because you'll see right here. Oh, okay, so he chose to have the whale fully spawned first, but even when the whale isn't fully spawned, visually the hitbox still is. So are you able to use the Flash Stopper to freeze it and not able to do anything to you, and it looks like you're just damaging water. Thankfully, Palpi seems to have quite an impressive match there, so those fights aren't prolonged too much. This is one of those instances where when enemies don't have the iframes, mashing is the faster way to go because of how long it takes to charge the buster. So if you have a solid enough mash, then you don't have to worry about it as much. AsneL unfortunately froze the whale up a little too high there, so he had to take longer jumps to be able to deal out the damage that he wanted to. I'm gonna say I felt that jump was a little bit short, unfortunately, and because of how hard you can get hit by things in this game, it happened. Like I said, it's a terrifying game. Well, we got to see another clutch finish from Palpi there. Palpi is on to Mega Man 5 now. Way to go. When AsneL gets to Mega Man 5, you actually... there's only one route to the game at any percent, because you just go to Starman. You get the super arrow super early, like you get it immediately, and then on top of that, just based on the weaknesses and everything, and collecting all the letters. In this case, since it's 46 Robos, he won't collect the letters. You would collect the letters to get beat, which is useful in the later stages that they won't see. But otherwise, that route is even still fixed without getting the beat letters. But Palpy, you're going to see some divergence there. And he can choose whatever it is that he wants to go through. And opting to choose Waveman first for whatever. Again, a lot Buster only runners, you know, they have a variety of reasons as to why it is that they might pick a certain stage. Maybe one's more terrifying, or maybe it's one that they're just stronger at and they want to get it out of the way, or basing it around some E-tanks or whatever it might be. But he's chosen to do Wave. AsneL's got some work ahead of him if he wants to be able to catch up to Palpy. Palpy's keeping a pretty solid, steady pace here. Really, really well done. It would have been nice to see both runners not have the sort of technical difficulties they especially did during 2. But thankfully, you know, they're putting on a really impressive race and show here. Love to see it. I'm not sure if AsneL will go for it, but there is a way that you can actually skip using the boat during this section, which means that you're able to use full buster shots and go off screen and everything like that. Hey now, Water Wave is a good weapon. It's used once, I think. Yeah, just in the one robot fight in the post-robo stages. I don't know that I've ever actually seen, like, I know you use it on Starman on paper, but I don't know that I've ever actually seen anybody fight Starman with the water weapon. Because for most runners, I mean, I guess not Buster only runners, but you also wouldn't be using the wave at that point anyway, but any percent runners would be skipping, generally speaking, skipping the robot refights, because there is a skip to completely bypass them. So I don't know that you ever really see the water wave. Got some Power Stone hate in chat. I love me some Power Stone. It is a rough weapon though. It's definitely one of the I don't know, I guess it depends on who you ask. It's a preference thing. It's, for a lot of people, it's the worst weapon in the franchise. So this stage here on Drillman, this is where it is that I was talking about before, where it's a very different experience if you are using the flash stopper versus going through Buster only, because you are freezing all the stuff that would lag you, damage you, and everything like that. And what you're seeing now on Palpy's screen, oh, that was a really nice setup. Very, very clean, very quick setup for Palpy. So for those who don't know, you can do what's called the crystal skip. And what I'm not even going to bother trying to understand the technical details or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about the setup and what it does. Oh no, we broke the game. To my understanding, there's essentially like a sprite overload, the way that it is that you set this up, and you deboost at a very specific spot and take a death at the same time. And you'll know that it's successful if you see the one enemy on the left with the ball on top and the second enemy with no ball on top of it. And so that's your visual cue to know that you've done the trick correctly. And what'll happen is there's sort of like some checkpoint kind of check throughout the game, and it does some sort of bypassing or whatever it might be. And when you set that data up the way that you did with that kind of enemy overload, though, it sets you up at the next checkpoint that is decided, which is right outside the boss door. The way that I've explained that and the vocabulary is probably horrifically wrong, but it's basically die at a certain spot and then you wind up outside the boss door. You'll see runners doing that for two different reasons, depending on how it is that they're running the game. In the case of 46 Robos, there's no reason not to do it, other than if you feel like you can't set it up. The reason that it is that you would do that is because you're not looking to get beat letters. So you can skip the stage, skip the beat letter, and that's no problem. The other thing is if you run this game and you're running it what would be called beatless, where you don't collect the beat letters, you do skip crystal stage, but it also means you miss out getting an M tank, which refills all of your ammo and health, which is super handy and means that you get to do some cool arrow strats. But it also means that you have the main thing is a major wild card fight at the end of the game in Wily, where he can just spawn where you can't hit him unless you switch to a slower weapon. So once you see AsneL get to this game, there's going to be a big difference in the way that they play this. And one of the big reasons is, like I said, he'll go to Starman first, get the super arrow, and there's going to be a lot of screens he's going to be skipping and going past. Whereas Palpi, you're seeing him just going at this game straight up. And it makes certain screens a lot more terrifying. But that was a really impressive crystal skip on his behalf. Really, really well done. Oh, Sage seems to have explained what I was trying to explain a lot less clumsily. So if you want the reason for crystal skip working, generally speaking, listen to Sage, not me. Getting good for AsneL. We've moved on to Mega Man 5 again. Still anybody's game, but Palpi's got a pretty solid lead here. Really, really well done. Like I said, with the level, like the category handicap, he's crushing it here. So it's good to see. One thing to note that I didn't earlier, and it mostly pertains to Palpi, is that in this game, like each game, once it introduced the charge, each game seems to handle how the Buster charges a little bit differently. One of the things being that in this game you can't actually charge while you're sliding, so they have to keep that in consideration. And then the other thing too, I believe, and I think from what I just saw there, is I think 5 is the game where if you get hit while you are charging, you lose the charge. So they got to be paying attention to when it is that they are taking damage. It's one of those things where I've played all of the speedrun casually enough each of the Mega Man games, but when you run 12 of them, it's easy to forget, especially since I know the NES games far less than I do the latter half. Thankfully, AsneL knew that health was there, so even though the health was a little bit scary, he knew he was going to be able to recover from that. It's going to be fun with Palpi because I'm going to see screens that I don't really get to see as much watching any % runners. Because about where he was just there, that's like the last point that you would do it, and there are some earlier points where you can do it as well, where you set up a super arrow and just kind of fly past the whole screen, which is like super fun and super cool to see. Oh, doing some despawning there on Palpi's behalf. When you see AsneL get there, he'll be using Crystal, whereas since Palpi is using Buster here, there's going to be a balance of when do you mash something down, when do you fully charge it, like how do you go about this? And trying to be able to manage the health and damage and that sort of stuff. And that is definitely an important thing to note, is that you'll notice that the Buster shot in Mega Man 5 is gargantuan. which is really cool for strats like that, where you can clear out a big clump of enemies, because it also has that, like, if it is able to kill an enemy one hit, it also has the ability to be able to pierce, and because the hitbox is so huge on it, it introduces some really cool strats here. For Palpiblade here, this is actually sometimes what you even see any percent runners doing, because as Cab indicated before, there's kind of a disdain towards Power Stone, and for some people they'll pause buffering and everything like that's annoying and sometimes really challenging to do. Power Stone is a difficult weapon to use, and it is Charge Man's weakness. It's a really weird fight. So now on AsneL's side, we're starting to see the use of the super arrow. She's going to take it a little safe there. There is a deboost strat there. Given some of the soft locking and some of the challenges that AsneL experienced before, I think that we're going to see a few safeties being implemented here. In certain instances with the super arrow, there's kind of two things that'll happen. You'll notice that he doesn't have any ammo, and that doesn't matter. You only need ammo to be able to initially launch the arrow. After it's launched, you can not have ammo and still keep riding it. You just can't launch anymore at that point in time. And in certain instances, like that screen, he wasn't going to use the arrow anymore. There was no way to be able to preserve the ammo, so he just shot it and rode it. But there are going to be other parts where what he's going to be doing is running the tip of the arrow, where it looked like he's basically kind of falling off of it. And in doing that, it means that he's preserving the ammo for later arrow shots, because the ammo gets used up a lot more slowly. There are going to be certain fights in this game that are fixed and other ones that are random. The gravity fight is fixed in the way that it is that it goes, so AsneL can do the same thing each time. You'll always have the same results. So once you learn that fight, aside from, human error, you can always play it the same way, which is kind of nice. There's a comfort to it. Then it just comes down purely to execution. And now we're going to start seeing with AsneL a lot more of those uses of the super arrow and just completely bypassing certain screens, which is really fun to be able to see. You can get through that room with some ammo left, which means that you're able to use an arrow to climb up to that ammo up above. But it's a really tight strat. But because that ammo refill is there, he gets to do that. I'll be curious to see if he gets an ammo drop. There is another super arrow spot that he can use that's really fun to see. No, he didn't switch to it. But that's okay. If it's not something that you know or are used to, it's not worth going for in this situation. But this screen, you can just use the super arrow to go right across, which if you get that ammo, or depending on how it is that you pay beatless, you can just skip through that screen. Oh, okay. So that's actually a good thing. So the Mets will eat up the charge shot. The reason being is that in the case here, so say when AsneL initially used the charge shot on this screen, it pierced the enemies and just kept on going. But in the case of the Mets, because the Mets in this game spawn smaller Mets upon death, it will just eat up the shot, because I guess, to my understanding, is because they essentially aren't like dead at that point in time. They've just sort of switched forms. So anywhere where it doesn't kill it in one hit with the fully charged, it won't pierce anymore. So you can get through that screen that Palpiblade just did with just 2 of those crushers coming in, but that strat is tight, and you have to really worry about iframes and the way that you mash and everything like that. So That was really smart on Palpy's part to lose that tiny bit of extra time and not be too too brave about pushing it, because it's very, very easy to die there. I'm not sure how AsneL will handle this. Maybe we'll see. Yeah, okay. So we are going to see the crystal skip. There are a couple different ways to do the crystal skip. And one of them involves the super arrow, which I'm not sure if we're going to see. Okay. Okay, and he's setting it the way that I do this as well. Unfortunately, he just missed it. I think he did it too far to the left. So basically what'll happen is he wants to set it up. There's a way that you do it with the 3 arrows set up, or he might have actually been too high. You set up the 3 arrows and then go to a certain height, and you do it from a certain distance away, and you just ride the super arrow, and then it lands you right on the spot where you're able to do the crystal skip. The way that Palpy did it, which he did it really fast and really well, is really cool to see the setup done that quickly, especially in this kind of setting. Is you set it up based on a visual cue as to when it is that you're going to slide into the enemy. AsneL starting on the wrong side of the enemy there, which is why that happened, but that's okay. He can still set it up here. The big thing is that he didn't waste the arrow ammo. That's why it is that he took the death that he did, is so that he could use a continue and get the ammo back and go for the crystal skip again. Not sure why he's going on the side that he is, but that's okay. That's totally okay. He still has another chance to be able to get this. I'm not sure if he will opt to play the stage instead, but I imagine just for the sake of this category and the way that it's normally played, he's likely gonna continue to go for the crystal skip. And now, because he didn't have enough life for it, sorry, like another extra life, he couldn't go for the crystal skip, because even if he got it, he wouldn't be able to spawn at the boss, so it would have just taken a ton of time and then used a continue anyway. I think that still counts. I didn't know that you could do that with the extra ball on the screen, but he did. So it looks like he got the skip, and he should spawn right outside the boss door, which is great. Great for AsneL being able to get the crystal skip. And we're seeing Palpy just crushing it over here on Gravity Man stage. So again, fixed pattern fight. So he's going to be able to play the fight the same way each time. And thankfully, this is actually one of the bosses like is kind of an easier time for Buster only once you get used to it. The big thing is just making sure that it is that you know when it is that you take certain shots and being in the right spot so you don't take them just because you can lose your charge. And losing a charge in this game, considering how long it is that it takes you to charge, it's best to avoid taking damage wherever it is possible. Yeah, Cab, so was I. Yeah, AsneL getting to take a tea break, have some Ocha. And now, unlike the any percent runners that all start on Starman, now we have Palpiblade finally going to Starman. The meteors at the start of the stage are random, so he does have to, like, runners do have to adapt to that. And in the case of any percent runners, they generally, if the first screen doesn't give them the favorable pattern, then they just reset. But we're 46 robos in a race, so you get what you get. Oh, it's been a while since I've seen crystal used here. So AsneL's slide chaining was unfortunately off, and that's why it is that he took the death that he did there. So in combination with the having to take down the crushers quickly, you also have to consider slide chaining as well. Otherwise it will spawn like that, and even though you're basically at the screen transition, it can still kill you. There's going to be a... Oh, no, still going to be sticking to crystal. Thankfully, napalm does not take much crystal ammo to take out, so it's not bad to be able to use crystal a little bit earlier like this. Make certain things just a little bit safer, a little bit easier. Oh no! Give me a tiny heart attack there, AsneL. Yeah. Okay, so is going to be kind of switching the way that it is that he's doing the super arrows here, adapting to the situation. The big thing is he needs a certain amount of super arrow ammo to be able to get through this next screen. That's what he's more concerned about. Unfortunate ammo drop from Eddie, because this is the point that it is that you're using up all of your ammo, so it didn't really matter too much. So I'm not sure how he's going to handle some of these things, because you can take... Okay, so he's still going to go for it. Good for AsneL. AsneL is not shying away from just going for Boke here, because it's very easy to take damage. as just said, and now he's going to stick with he's going to have to adapt here to not having the super arrow as well as the flash that makes the gravity shot, which makes that screen, those screens that he was just on, way easier. And GG's to Palpi on getting to Mega Man 6. This is also a game that he is quite familiar with, Buster only, so I'm sure he's going to do really well here. Good for him. Really pushing it here. So that's where I was saying before, where it's just, despite the category difference, still anyone game. These are terrifying games, terrifying categories. So good for AsneL for Palpi for taking the more challenging category and still pushing it and keeping a pretty commendable lead here. But still, anybody's game. We'll see what happens. But regardless of who wins, both runners have put on an incredible show here and done really well. I love to see it. So there are a couple different ways to do the napalm fight with crystal. That's, so to speak, the easier way. The other way to reduce lag a little bit is you actually stay closer to him and get him to shoot. Sorry, not closer. Like he does different attacks depending on how far or close you are away from him. And you can get the napalm shots in the air, or you can get the missiles like you did at the opening of the fight. And if you're doing it the slightly faster way, you kind of slide under the missiles and do an interesting strat with that, because you're saving the frames from not seeing the explosion animations, which adds leg to the fight. Great opening stage from Pel. Okay, so we've got him going to Blizzard next. There's stuff in this stage and some scary health management in Buster only, so I'll be curious to see how he handles some of this stuff. I'm hoping to. I'm not saying it would be an advisable thing to do, but one of the the things that people love to chat about and love to push runners to do is the bomb skip at the end of the stage. I'll be curious to see if he goes for it. Again, probably not in this setting advisable to do, but I mean, you never know. He might go for it. And depending on how it is that we go about that screen, I'll explain that trick and what's going on once we get there. But right now he's going to be going on the submarine here. There's something that if you go, oh no, the spikes in the water there just kind of give him a little bit of a surprise there. Mega Man 6 deaths in terms of the spawning and stuff like that, especially if you die near a checkpoint, are actually really quick. So there is sort of an advantage to dying where he did. And that's one of the things that it's kind of nice for Palpy in a certain sense, because say in Mega Man 6, when you're running 80%, a lot of the robo stages are get to a certain point and use fire is the strat. That's the way that you play the stage. If you lose, and a lot of the stages have exact ammo usage, because that's why it is that you get to a certain point without fire and then just start using fire. So if you take a death, not having enough flame changes the way that you play the stage and can be really scary. So if you're doing a buster only, then a death is just a death at that point in time. It's just the time loss. You don't have to worry about ammo management on top of it. So he didn't go for it, which I wasn't expecting him to. But outside of Blizzard stage, some runners just go for it anyway. Is right outside the boss door, you're actually able to slide under those last two bombs that are there. And there's a subpixel that's random. I mean, I guess if you're a TAS or something like that, it's not random. No, it's still random. You just know where it is. But there's a subpixel that fluctuates based on certain values. I can't remember the full extent as to what the values are and what determines it, but it'll disappear and it'll be this invisible pixel that you can bounce off of and slide under those bombs instead of waiting for both of them to explode. Which, based on saying that it's a random thing and a really high-level execution trick, you can imagine why most runners would opt not to do that in runs. Especially in this type of setting. So it wasn't an expectation, I was just more of a curiosity. AsneL unfortunately using too much ammo, and because it is that he missed the super arrow that he did at the start of the stage, having to adapt the way that he would play this. Because the way that he would normally play the stage after that super arrow would mean that he would have a lot more health, and so he could do certain things differently. So that, if anything, taking a game over in certain respects actually is kind of easier, maybe, because now he'll have the crystal ammo and not have to go through the stage the way that he did. And his health will be where he would prefer it to be. No. So there was a line right below them where he would have spawned the arrow and gunned under those enemies and just dip past this whole screen. You skip all the trains and all the shots and everything like that. Unfortunately, missing it again, but it's a really difficult trick to do. When you see runners, just their artful little playing around with super arrows and making it look easy, they're making it look easy, but the setups and the execution and everything like that, especially in the later stages, are absolutely terrifying and really, really tight. So when you see it being done well, they're making it look way easier than it actually is. Palpy just making some steady progress here, just crushing it. Nightman is an interesting fight for Buster only runners, because Nightman is the only boss in Mega Man 6 that kind of just gets to do what he wants. There are a lot of the bosses where it'll be like, okay, it can only jump 3 times in a row, or say in the case of Yamato, can only jump shot twice, can only shoot forward twice. Nightman can get to do what he would like and can be invulnerable for pretty extensive periods. Which, if you are playing this in any percent, you have the Yamato Spear. He can kind of do whatever he wants because it pierces it anyway. Whereas in Buster only, he can block your shots. So you got to be careful of that sort of thing. I think AsneL's adapting to the no. I think I'm not sure if it's a pixel, but there is a spot on that final screen where if you get extra arrow ammo, you can actually skip by the whole thing. I don't think it's a pixel, but it's a very, very tight window for you to be able to skip all of it. It's really, really cool to see when it's done, but it is really brutal to get. There's probably a buffer strat to do it, but I'm not sure that most runners go for it in runs. Maybe top level do, I'm not sure. Fun to do if you can do it, though. So this will be one of the things that's interesting with, say, on Palpi's screen here. Okay, no, he was really smart to do that. So in this stage, you'll notice that there are the oil pits here, and they can get lit on fire by those tellies up above. And the thing is that once they get lit on fire, they stay lit on fire. So he's not able to just go into those pits safely anymore. He's got to use certain platforms and like make certain platforms from those. I think they're pookers. I can't think the name of them is. So he's forced to use them rather than sliding through in the oil. Okay, unfortunate there. So yeah, now that pit's going to stay on fire. And so if you leave the stage and come back, you can reset that, which is what he chose to do with that continue. Now that's going to be on fire, so he's not able to switch it, just like you see here. And the other challenge with that is, let's say that pit that just got lit down below, not only did it light that pit on fire, but there's a pit that gets lit towards the end of the stage, so he has to adapt to that as well. One of the reasons why, you know, it might have looked like, okay, why didn't he just, you know, get out of that slide and just hop out of it? One of the things that makes it a really difficult judgment thing to do, depending on your experience with Mega Man 6, is you can't directly jump out of slides. So you'll be seeing him doing two things. You saw the back, kind of when he went backwards for moments, and then other times chooses to do it where he just jumps out of the slides with a double tap. So you have to do what's called the slide cancel, where you stop your slide either by tapping the jump button and then it'll stop you, or you can go in the opposite direction and then it will switch which direction it is that you're sliding and cancel it. So in instances where it's like there's a very, very tight moment, depending on how it is that you've routed it, and if it's something that you typically do, it can be really hard to adapt to jumping out of slides, again, depending on your comfort with the game. Oh no, he jumped too high. So on AsneL's screen, he was going for some of the bubble skips there, which are immensely difficult to do. So it's easy to make that screen transition and get stuck into the spikes there. So that was a very unfortunate death, especially now that he has to redo the stage. But yeah, that bubble skip is something else. When it's done, it's really cool to see. So I hope he goes for going through this again. because it'd be cool to see if he gets it done. But it is immensely tight. The big thing that makes it as difficult as it is that the big bubbles, when you jump on them, stay there and will carry you through the screen transitions. The small bubbles really aren't intended. It would seem to be rode through a screen transition, but you can. And that's how it is that you can do the bubble skip and skip a lot of the traversal upwards and the speed that's associated with it. I'm very glad. So what AsneL tried to do was what I had talked about earlier, where you can actually skip riding the jet ski thing by using super arrows and then jumping over it. But he almost did it where he... Oh, my heart kind of stopped thinking about it. Is you can jump at a certain distance where it's like, yeah, you can skip it and then just keep going forward, and now you have the charge and you can go off screen. Lovely. But he almost landed in the spot where it soft locks it, and you'll know that you soft locked it when Mega Man just keeps hopping, and he'll hop off the screen and away you go, and you're just stuck forever. And once you get to that mini boss, then that's it. So thankfully he didn't soft lock, so landing on that jet was the better way to go. So interestingly, on Palpi's screen here, even though he's playing Buster only, sometimes runners actually run this stage like this anyway. If you're doing this optimally, you would be switching to Knight a lot earlier, which is the combo of Centaur's weakness as well as a very, very useful weapon. It seems like this stage was like built for Nightman's weapon just because of the way that it flows and everything like that, but the ammo is tight and it's really difficult to do. So some people, in terms of health and ammo management, choose to do Buster sometimes. So there's certain things that might actually kind of look replicated from what some 80% runners do. Doing really, really well there. I'll spare everybody having to hear me sing because I'm not particularly good at it, but there is a Centaur Man song, which if I could just pop Mr. Cab on the comms, I would do that and get him to sing it. There's also a song for Yamato Man that I remember when we used to do weekly races of Mega Man 6, Papat would sing. So AsneL going on to Mega Man 6 now. GG's to him. I think we've kind of treaded out of it's anybody's game category, and I'm sure that Palpi has got this, given that AsneL's just starting Mega Man 6. And Palpi's, maintaining a really steady, solid pace there. He's doing really well out here. But I really hope that AsneL just crashes this game and continues to do super well. I think of all the classic games, it's the one that AsneL is most familiar with. So we'll see what happens. But for sure, we're going to see some wonderful gameplay. So only 3 Robot Masters left. For those who have maybe not familiar with the game and have noticed you're able to see on the Robot Master Select that some of the stages have little Mega Man faces on them, and some will and some won't, depending on how it is that you've gone through the stage. For the stages, to be able to get an extra piece, I think it's the energy converter. I can't remember. It's been forever since I've played Hundo. But there are 2 different routes on each of the 4 of the stages that you can go to the boss. Like, it's the same boss, but in a different location. And when you wind up doing that, you're gonna... Oh yeah, it's for beat. You'll see the beat letters on the screen showing that it's like, oh, okay, I went to the right boss corridor. I think in any percent you only go to one of them normally, whereas Buster only... There's certain ones that you're actually forced to do. Like I think Yamato Man is one of them because you have to take the bottom route, which takes a lot longer. Oh yeah, I guess he won't be doing platforms because of his health. But there's a really cool trick here that's absolutely terrifying where you don't have to, like, you can avoid opening up those platforms by jumping on the hitbox of the little circle that's in them, but you can't stand on the hitbox, so you have to continually hop until you're ready to jump where you need to be. So it's scary stuff. So, okay, I wasn't sure if he was going to be doing the manip or not. I'm not sure if it's useful to Buster only runners, but with Plant, you can actually get into his hitbox in a certain way and make it so that all he does instead for a while is just run and not summon any of the plant barriers, which is really cool to see him just running around the room frantically, not quite sure what's going on. And yes, the obligatory streamer. We're coming down to the wire here for Palpy. In the end, only two more robot masters. Some very nice movement over on AsneL's screen. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that this is the classic Mega that he's most familiar with, so I'm not surprised by that. I think AsneL, generally speaking, is more familiar and comfortable with the latter half of the Mega Man games, but is incredible at all of them. That's why you're seeing him in the 46 Robos tourney like this. All the runners have been doing incredibly well, both of these runners, no exception. Terrifying category, they've continued to push, and despite any technical difficulties or anything that's going on, they just still keep on plugging away. You love to see it. I wasn't sure if he was going to switch to Wind there. So Wind has a funny mechanic in that if an enemy is weak to it, like say the flame boss here, you're able to use the wind weapon and just do your damage. But on the enemy right outside the boss door, you're actually able to shoot two of the winds if you haven't shot up with any of the buster shots, and it'll carry the enemy off screen. So it doesn't actually kill enemies that that isn't weak to the weapon. It'll actually carry them away, which is something to keep in mind in a lot of instances, because it'll still have a hitbox and everything like that, and takes a little while to disappear off the screen. So when you do use it, it's something that you need to consider. And now this is the point in the run where, like I talked about before, for AsneL, it's find the point where you use flame and just use flame the rest of the stage. And in the case of Blizzard, you use it on the screen with the little curling rock enemies. You use it about halfway, and then you just keep it equipped right until you fight Blizzard, actually. Great job on Palpy's screen there. Crushing it. Only has one more stage to go. So unless something absolutely incredibly bizarre happens, which I obviously hope not, Palpy's gonna take this win here once he takes down Yamato. Doing really, really well. AsneL choosing to push it there. There's something called butter, which you're able to slide through that whole subsection there without stopping. and it's really tight, but it's super swaggy and cool to see. So I was hoping he was going to be able to get that. Unfortunately not, and now having to go through the stage again. So with the slide cancels, that strat that AsneL was going for is really, really tight. So hopping into the pit there, because you have to do a very specific tiny hop and slide cancel at just the right spot. It's tough, really tough. So this is what I was talking about before. In Buster Only, like if you were to be playing any percent, you'd be using Jet to go up top here. In Buster Only, you take this bottom route, which takes a lot longer, but because we're committed to just using the Buster unless there's no other means of pressing on, that's when you get those instances like that. Okay, and now we're just on the final stretch here for Palpi. I'm just gotta take out Yamato Man, and away we go. As I said before, Yamato and Mega Man 6 bosses in general, other than Knight, will have it where they can do a fixed amount of sequences. So in the case of him, he's only going to be doing 2 jumps max, 2 straight shots max. Amazing finish there. From Palpi. I expected him to keep Buster Only the whole time, but he decided to toss in a quick little finish with his actual weakness. So that was really fun to see there. What a swaggy way to end it. Love it. Way to go, Palpi. Huge congrats. Put on an absolutely amazing show. Way to go. And what a way to end it. And technically, like, because this is an any percent tournament, there's nothing preventing Palpi from doing that. He chose to run Buster Only, so he could have used any of the weapons if he chose to at any point in time. So what a time to do it. Way to go. So what you saw AsneL doing in the corner there is actually, if you wind up doing the hops and get a kill like that, you're able to get rid of some of the explosions and reduce some of the lag, and then you slide back on into the center so you can get the quickest teleport out. Got a PB and any percent. Way to go, Palpi. So we're on the final stretch here for AsneL as well. So again, this is another one of those instances of go until you have to use flame. That's what a lot of any percent is for Mega Man 6, and in the case of this, you'll see him switching to flame once we get to the golem. So we'll see what happens from there. He'll kind of switch the way that he is that he adapts to the situations based on
Yo,
Palpi, congrats.
I apologize for everyone that watched that run. That was horrible.
But you kept going. That's the big thing.
I
Like
got a PB in any percent technically. So
I was saying earlier there that it's one of those things that is about just keeping on going despite anything that's thrown at you. So the fact that you kept pushing, that was commendable, because Mega Man 2, that was throwing you everything.
My controller disconnected. I was so upset. And the thing is that I use a Nintendo Pro controller, and its Bluetooth is so jank. So I had to close Mega Man 2 in order to actually get it to connect again. So that was just a pain. And not to mention the footholders giving me an amazing start.
Looks like the stream is frozen.
Mine?
No, the whole thing. I'm not sure if it's
What
frozen
a
on
night
your.
you've had too. You had to
Yeah, it's been interesting commentating because it's just like, oh no, what's going on? Because at the same time, your controller disconnected and you were dealing with that AsneL soft locked and was trying to figure out passwords.
Oh,
So Mega Man 2 for both of you was just unending chaos, unfortunately. So trying to figure that out was like, oh no.
I was so confused. I'm like, how? Wait, I'm not that. What happened? I was so confused when I went to check the stream to see how far behind I was, and I saw like, wait, I'm in Mega Man 3. He's still in Mega Man 2. What the heck happened?
Yeah. Yeah, a lot happened. It's just it was a night of chaos, but the fact that both of it just kept going is like that's what you want. And so the fact that you didn't throw in the hat, like it netted you that victory. Because a lot of
Yes,
people, if they wound up having that happen in two, would have been like, well, that's it. Especially
now it's
since
time
you
to get
were
my butt kicked by Colonel Fatso. Woohoo!
especially because in your
Especially
position
feels like
is
this.
you're running the slower category, so you're already set where you are, and the fact that you just kept going and clutched out the win is super cool to see.
All right. I'm gonna head out. Thank you for commentating, Phantom. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Take care.
take care.
Um. Okay, so the stream is fine. Like the sound is fine, but the stream is frozen. Okay. Um. Okay. Not sure what to do here. So there's no game. So there's just me on the mic. No game or. Oh, no, it's just AsneL stream, it looks like. Palpy's able to play. Um, we're going to see if we can try and get that back up. We'll see if we can ping someone. Otherwise, I'm just kind of. Yeah, it's still frozen over there. But right now, AsneL is on. I have his stream open, so I guess we'll commentate and try and do a narration based on a stream he can't see for now. Hopefully, somebody sees or hears this. But AsneL just finished Yamato Man. He's going to be going on to Nightman next. Oh, and he just got a gold on Yamato stage. That's really cool. Going on to Nightman's stage. So he's just got 2 stages left. So definitely wish them the best of luck for those who are listening to me ramble. You can go to AsneL's stream and also watch it there if you want both of them. But he's nearly done here, so hopefully he got the night butter. Got into the spike ceiling just fine, so that was wonderful to see. Yeah. He's about halfway through Nightman's stage right now. I guess if it fixes itself, would hope that it fixes itself shortly. No sense in bothering someone for stage in a bit. But right now he's just on to Nightman, and thankfully with Nightman, since he's running 80%, he gets the shield piercing with Yamato's weapon, which is super cool to see. Makes the fight way more consistent and easier to deal with and not have to deal with the random chaos of Nightman. Just took him out, and we'll have one more stage left. Moving on to Centaur Man.